Hello again. He's cute, isn't he? And the baby. So, hello. Hi, my name's Tom again, and welcome to my talk about supporting dads navigating the neonatal journey. So I know it's been a long day, and hopefully it's been very useful and insightful for all of you. So I'll try and keep my talk light, but obviously just a bit of a note before I start. You know, there's some themes and subjects in there that might cause some upset for some people. So I won't be offended if anybody wants to take a step out or take some time. At the end of the day, it's one of them subjects really. I also want to point out that there's no kind of finger pointing at any one service or organisation or individual when it comes to this. The main goal of it is just to get people thinking and talking about their role and their service's role in supporting dads through this journey, while using my own experience to kind of paint the picture about what a lot of dads go through as part of a neonatal journey. So we found out Finley was going to be born early after a routine scan at around 24 weeks. Identified a placental blood flow issue and subsequent IUGR, meaning we were never going to go beyond 32 weeks gestation. Up until this point, everything was going according to plan. My wife felt very healthy. She hadn't had any sickness, any other symptoms of any issues, so this was a massive curveball for us, as you can imagine. But obviously finding out that we were having this issue so early on was a blessing in one respect, because it gave us ample time to prepare, but in another respect it also gave us time to reflect and think of every kind of situation and eventuality that could face us, you know, in the coming weeks and months. So, you know, we were constantly asking ourselves, how close to 32 weeks are we going to get? You know, we're hearing stories of 24, 25, 26 weekers, and obviously the statistics can vary massively day on day at times. Will there be severe issues, disabilities, health issues, and obviously, as terrible as it sounds, you know, what are the chances of us having a baby at the end of all this? So my wife was signed off work at this stage as one of the factors contributing to the complications with a high risk of preeclampsia, which she did later develop. But I continued to work what felt like all hours, to be honest, trying to balance my job and almost daily growth scans, Doppler ultrasounds and consultant appointments. By the end of it, I think we hit something like 34 scans, 32 consultant appointments. And yeah, it was tough, and it had a significant financial and time implication for us as a family. But my experience at both Wiston and the Liverpool Women's antenatally was a very positive one, and the consultants that looked after us did exactly that. They looked after us. It wasn't just mum, it was both of us, which we can't sort of thank them enough for. But as you can see by the statistics, there's still a long way to go for many dads. I think the thing which really sticks out for me is that research from 25 years ago, 30% of dads reported to have not been addressed directly by healthcare professionals, and yet a very similar study only 6 years ago, it was still reported at 29.4%. So, you know, it's a move in the right direction, but there's still a lot to do. So this is Finley. He was born at 31 plus 4. 12th of April, and you can see him there with my wedding ring in the second picture there, and me carrying him like a little burrito in the second one and the third one. So yeah, he was arrived. We got to sort of a Monday in April where we had a scan, and it came to pass that it was time. He spent his first week at the Women's before being well enough to get transferred over to Wiston at the special care baby unit for another 6 weeks. Tiny but mighty, yeah. So what I tried to separate this off into is just a few the roles that people play in supporting dads in the neonatal journey. So firstly, I know there's been a lot of talk about this today already, but I just thought I'd go into it. The laws around paternity and parental leave were slightly different to how they are now and what's coming into play in April. So through the work that Dad Matters continues to deliver, the effects of this kind of delay are still being felt. So there was a right to refuse or postpone paternity leave or parental leave, and my employers at the time tried to. They said it was an inconvenient time and they had to think of the needs of the business. Partners only have the right to go to 2 antenatal appointments. As I mentioned before, we had 30 plus. So I had to take my laptop to every single appointment we had. Every single waiting room I sat in on my laptop doing my job. While we were waiting for a scan, that might mean we were having our baby there and then. And that's not something anyone should really go through, let alone dads. But that's the world that we live in and that's some employers. So there's obviously a huge, I wouldn't say maybe a lack of empathy, but maybe a lack of understanding around the impact that this can have on dads. There's no statutory entitlement for extended leave of parents who are in neonatal care, but obviously coming in April we've got the Neonatal Parental Act, which I can go into, but approximately 1 in 7 new babies require neonatal care of some kind. According to Bliss, the average stay of a baby in neonatal care is 7 days, but it can vary greatly on a case-to-case basis depending on what the complexities are. For reference, the average stay in a neonatal unit for a baby born between 28 and 33 weeks is 44 days. So as a result, I, like many other dads, spent my entire 2 weeks unpaid paternity leave in the neonatal unit and looking after my wife, who was recovering from a C-section and some complications of the C-section. A week after returning back back to work after my paternity leave, I was called into a meeting with one of the directors of the business, and bearing in mind they hadn't even acknowledged that I'd had a baby at this point. The opening line of the meeting was, "I'll cut to the chase on this. What's wrong with you? Your productivity since you've been back has been way off what we would expect. We want to know why and what we can do to get things back on track." Now, some of the conversations that I still have with dads to this day maybe aren't as sort of stark as that, but they are quite similar. And fast forward to today, there are some positive changes which are coming into play. So effective from April 25, you've got the neonatal care leave and pay bill, which because of the gap between assent, which was last year, and enforcement, as well as a change in government in the meantime, means that there's still a significant lack of awareness around the entitlements that this bill brings. There are people who are pregnant now, whose partners are pregnant now, that are entitled to this, and they don't know that they're entitled to this for when their baby is born in April. So if you are having discussions with dads, if you're having discussions with mums, make sure that they're aware that this act is coming in April, and that you educate yourself on it. So the role of antenatal care providers. So some dads may be seemingly well prepared for this experience, either having been preparing for it for weeks like I did, done their own research independently just in case, or perhaps have had a previous neonatal experience. By contrast, you may have dads who a few hours ago were going about their day as normal after a potentially extremely traumatic day, they stumble into a NICU ward not knowing the first thing about what to expect. So these are some ways that researchers identified antenatal care providers can support these dads. So this is before, obviously, all this takes place. Transparency and impartiality. So it's important that both parents are aware of whatever situation they're in, no matter how desperate the situation might be. It's also important to operate focusing on the facts and the reality of the situation. Information and facts are key to a dad's understanding and processing of this information that's being given to them, and it really does dictate what their reaction and their decision making is in these situations. Education and openness or honesty. Parents are entitled to know what any acronyms, codes, or anything else that may be used internally means when it comes to the context of their care and the care of their baby. There's a lot, obviously, as healthcare professionals, there's a lot of different acronyms, lots of different codes, lots of different words that you use that people may not understand, and it's really important that people know that when you're talking about a specific aspect of their care, that they're fully informed about what it is that you're talking about. And professionalism and compassion. So the conversations you could be having with some of these parents, it could be some of the toughest conversations that these parents have ever had. Many have had birth plans and exciting plans tossed out the window in an instant. So although as professionals this is something that you come across every day, and things that may not seemingly be serious or important or out of the norm, should I say, it can be a significant contributor to birth trauma and mental health conditions for both parents, not just dads. The role of neonatal care providers. So the reality is that in most instances, the dad or partner is the very first parent on the scene in a neonatal unit, and often do so alone. Quite a lot of the time they have a very drained partner, or quite an ill partner in my case, waiting on a recovery ward somewhere. So when I walked into the NICU, it was nearly 10:30 at night. We'd had the C-section and my wife was recovering on the ward. I distinctly remember looking through the door into the unit and seeing a dark room with 4 incubators inside. I was about to walk in and then all hell broke loose. An alarm went off and around a dozen staff went sprinting into the room. I was left stood outside on my own thinking there was a 1 in 4 chance that my baby is in a lot of trouble. I was invited in by a nurse after a few minutes once things had calmed down, and I was reassured that the baby with the issue wasn't Finley, and I was asked if I was all right. So the act of simply checking in on me made the world of difference to me in that moment. But this, unfortunately, was one of the only times I was asked, which, as you can see, is an all too common theme. Where am I? There we go. The role of dads. So let's not forget, dads ourselves play a huge part in a neonatal care environment. Research shows that an early parent-child relationship is important for a child's development, both intellectually and socially, and obviously NICU prevents a significant barrier to this initial bonding. When both parents are involved in childcare at the NICU, there is a significant reduction in infant admission time, up to 5.5 days shorter on average, which I thought was quite telling. Similarly, the frequency of visits by fathers and their involvement in the care of their baby has shown to have a positive effect on infant weight and social development, both during hospitalisation and beyond, with research showing that even in 8 and 9-year-olds, dads who were present in NICU, the outcomes and the development stages that they hit at 8 and 9 are improved. So it does have a significant long-term impact. Although the environment does present a significant barrier to bonding in those early stages, dads do make a difference and should be encouraged to do so. Every morning before work, I would drop my wife off at the hospital and she would stay with Finley hour after hour. Every evening after work, regardless of what time I finished, I went to go and see Finley, and every weekend we were both cot-side, reading, changing nappies, feeding, and generally getting as hands-on as we possibly could and involved in Finley's care. In any case, life on a neonatal ward is not a two-dimensional one. Nothing can prepare you for everything that you can encounter. Just like mums, dads have got a front row seat to each individual family struggle. Just like mums, dads will see the same faces day after day, and some faces you'll only see the bumps. And just like mums, dads bear witness to real-life emergencies, but also to stories of success and living in hope that one day that it'll soon be you. Just like mums, dads go home without their baby and go to sleep, hearing the beeps and buzzes of the various chimes and alarms that they've heard that day. So, although dads feel compelled to stay strong for their babies and partners, it's safe to say that there is every chance that they're struggling just like mum, and it's always worth a conversation. This is a breakdown from a Danish study, and it's detailing the ways in which neonatal units can allow for fathers to be better included in a child's care. So although I appreciate a number of these may seem a bit pie in the sky, some of them may seem quite obvious, it's interesting to note that it's the same common themes that are coming through that we've seen a lot today. Namely around involvement in attachment and bonding, the right to information, and creating a culture of father-inclusive support. And bearing in mind this is a Danish study, it just shows how universal this requirement is. It is not bound by cultures in terms of neonatal support. As for the role of society, there's obviously a significant stigma to overcome when it comes to a dad's role in a neonatal setting. Research based purely on parental psychological health and parenting quality show there's no evidence that dads are less competent in caring for babies than mothers, which again is something that was brought up earlier. but their roles and strengths in parenthood, of course, will look a little bit different. Other studies show fathers who are primary caregivers face particular social pressures and isolation in the mother-dominated world of playgroups and playgrounds, the stigma of adopting a non-traditional role and less social support. So that means that although dads might yearn to access services, they lack the confidence to do so in what's a traditionally mum-dominated zone. In a neonatal care context, there is little that is exclusively relevant to mums, to be honest. There's no reason why dads can't get involved. Even breastfeeding and pumping is something dads will more often than not benefit from understanding and helping in whatever way they can, which obviously Stacey has gone through. Dads should be seen as an asset to the development of their child, of the care of a child. So it seems obvious, but in practice, it's worth just thinking, is this being applied to your everyday professional work, this theory? It's kind of a concept that, probably an outdated concept, that dads are an inherent risk. They are a liability in terms of the care of their child, probably less so in a neonatal environment, but it's something that is, well and truly still there. So then we fast forward to today. So nearly 3 years on from Finley's birth and neonatal care state, here he is. He's a happy, healthy and hungry toddler. So at this point, that I'll let you in on a little secret. So today was actually the first time that I've told Finley's story in this much detail, and I do this as a job. So there'll be dozens, if not hundreds of dads that will be in a very similar situation that either want the platform or the person to talk to and get this out. And it's up to us as professionals to be able to facilitate that and welcome these conversations. I felt moved to do so because all the professionals who are here today, regardless of your service, are here today because your passion and your vocation is helping people. And I hope that through my story and everyone else is here today, you'll go away having learnt something new, see something differently, or you might gain a new perspective on the families that you all work so hard to help. So without kind of the referrals process, systems and things like that, it's probably good to sort of just go away and think, is there a dad that you work with or you have ever worked with that would benefit from a conversation about it? Because more often than not, they definitely will do. And then I'll let hang on. I've got a video there, I don't know if anyone can play it.
What pose are you doing now? And can you do barrel facing dog? Wow! And what else? Dormouse? Wow! When did you learn all this?
In the pool.
What book was it?
Yoga ball.
Wow! It looks like a baby book. Ah. Oh, lovely.
So in the way that Finley has found a twig, I hope that you found this speech enlightening and interesting. So thank you very much.